Everyone, welcome to episode 519 of the My 123 Cents podcast. Joining me this week for the first time in a long time, it's your friend of mine, Tyler Heath Hatton of Stride Pro Wrestling fame. And Tyler, what's going on? How are you doing, man?
I cannot believe that you have been able to do 519 of these. Number one, I want to make fun of you for it in a way, but there's really no way to make fun of you. That's pretty impressive. When I tried to do my podcast, the hardest part was editing it. I just could not find the time to edit it. It was like you spend an hour recording it
Yeah.
and then another 30 minutes editing it. I felt like, or
Yeah.
maybe not that long, but it was time consuming. And then I got kicked out of my Spotify and I couldn't
Yeah, you had all
listen.
kinds of issues there for a minute.
Yeah,
So,
I lost my email. I lost they got in my bank account, my Facebook. They wiped me clean. Luckily you were still on the Stride page, like my chatting with Hatton page, my softball pages. I lost all of them
oh,
because
you lost all that stuff?
I
Wow.
was the only admin on there. So yeah. So yeah, it was but anyway, but I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Sitting in my office at my job and admiring yours. You would have the poster in the background that doesn't have me on it.
I
Um,
need to. I actually have that. I have a frame for it. I have just never printed it. I do need to print it. So next time we do this, you'll be up there behind me. So you're a couple little Easter eggs dropped there. You are at your office, which is going to be the site of the Stride Pro Wrestling show that's coming up. You mentioned the Stride Facebook page, so we're getting that up and running, and folks can see what is happening. But talk a little bit about Stride. It's been, I guess you walked away, did you walk away right after Stride Anniversary last year in 2023?
yeah.
Last
So no, I was it Stride of 2023. Yeah, it was 2023. Was the last time that I performed at Stride. So yeah, it was. I'd walked away. After that night, I
year?
can't even remember who I wrestled.
Zach Sawyer, I believe, wasn't it? Or
Oh yes, it was.
yeah,
Yes, it was Zach Sawyer. Yes, yes. So
yeah.
you're
And then
better than I am.
I did the show, the April show after that, and then I was finished. And I haven't done anything in the wrestling space. I've been asked a few times to announce. I know you've done some shows. You wrestled at the Williamson County Fair, which I had hoped to make it out to see you do that. So how has it been? I'm going to assume that 2023/2024 has probably been your most inactive year of in-ring work since you started wrestling many years ago.
Yeah. So I took a new administration, quotation marks. If you're just listening to this job, I'm an athletic director, and that entails a lot of supervising, scheduling, getting referees. There's not a day since I took the job that I haven't got a text message or a phone call or an email about something to do with my school sports. So anyway, with that and my daughter really hitting the softball scene and really taking off, I've wrestled in St. Louis a couple times. I've wrestled for IWAP a couple times, did a couple shows. Pro Wrestling Epic, I did, their show. I've been very picky about what I do. I feel like there are certain people that have been good to me along the years and taken care of me. So when a Brandon Espinoza calls, or a John Bach calls, somebody like that, a Curly calls, and somebody like that, if I can fit it in, I try to make sure I find a way to do it. No Fold Pro Wrestling, I wrestled for them a few
Oh yeah,
times
that's
in
right.
in
Yeah.
in that time. So I really try to help out certain people. I try to do what I can to help out companies. But yeah, pretty much. When I stepped aside, I really I had to. I think me and you talked on a podcast once before, like how much I love wrestling. And I really enjoy the Undertaker's podcast. I've listened to a couple of them the last
Mhm.
few mornings where he talks about how hard it is to be at a wrestling show or watch wrestling and you want to be out there. I didn't realize that until recently, until actually I stepped away. I feel like my body, I can't do it like I want to. I don't look like I want to. I can't wrestle. So anyway, it's that's kind of why I've been pretty much away from it. When I'm there or I'm watching it, like anytime I watch a pay per view, I'll start going through my messages and looking for a place to wrestle. Like who's reached out recently? What? And I know, and that's not healthy to
Yeah.
have for sure.
Let me ask you something. You mentioned the Undertaker's podcast. Let me ask you something about that because for so I would say throughout his entire career, especially the WWE as the Undertaker, he wrestled under that character for 30 years, and he really they say lived the gimmick. So he didn't really talk much, and he always wore black. He was always in character, even when he was out in public or speaking and stuff. And now that he's got a podcast, he does the one man show where he goes out and does things. He's wearing jeans and a t-shirt and all this. For someone that kept that gimmick alive for so long, and now he's kind of, you know, and I've not listened to his podcast, so I don't know if he's the Undertaker on the podcast or not, or if he's Mark Calloway. But is it weird seeing him kind of as a regular person, or hearing him talk about things as a regular person versus always kind of having that character going on in those original times?
No, I don't think so because that's the one thing that I think I've said on here before. Wrestling is really hard for me to be a fan
Hmm.
because when you've been behind the curtain, especially at WWE, you know, like me, I was there when Kane and Randy Orton, and seeing Kane walk around with Randy Orton playing out their match, and he's
Hmm.
got on a Big Show shirt with no mask on and boots and jeans, walking around laughing and talking like it takes I guess it's like Disney, where backstage is behind the
Yeah.
magic. So I think to me, I find it like man, my wife makes fun of me, man. When it comes to wrestling, I'm a wimp. Like I'll watch a documentary and I love wrestling so much, like I'll cry.
Yeah.
Or like I'll see a TikTok and I'll get on it and I'll see some moment in wrestling history and I'll feel my eyes getting teary because I'm so excited for that person
Yeah.
because I love it so much. So hearing Undertaker talk, you hear Mark Calloway and you hear how much he loved it, and you hear like how to me somebody who loved wrestling so much, like you hear somebody like him talk, and you can genuinely tell
Yeah.
that he just loves wrestling, that he just loved it, and he like now different from me. I loved wrestling. I didn't love the business side of wrestling. And I think he actually did enjoy the business side of it. I think he was very good at it. But anyway, it's not weird to me at all, just because I think I understood more than anything else, or more than most people, that he's playing a character. He's
Hmm.
obviously not dead. He's
Right.
obviously, he's playing a character. And I think he has so many stories that he hasn't been able to tell or
Sure.
talk about, and he's really let the cat out of the bag, I guess. So I've enjoyed that just because I think you've heard the Eric Bischoff story, the Hogan stories 1,000 times.
Right.
You've heard,
Yeah.
the Randy Orton stories 1,000 times, the John Cena where he was about to get fired on cuts
Yeah.
1,000. You've heard all these stories. You haven't really heard very many from the Undertaker because he kept
Sure.
them close to the chest. So I find that more interesting, when I'm listening to that, to hear his, because you hear Randy Orton talk about how Undertaker, or how he was late for the walk through Undertaker's match, but you haven't ever heard Undertaker's
Yeah.
side of that. So I find that more interesting.
Well, what are your views now? Because it's been a while since we've done a show and talked about it, but you know, for lack of a better word, the Triple H era, the TKO era, I guess, Endeavor. has your fandom changed at all toward WWE since Vince McMahon is officially pretty much completely removed from the product, and Triple H and Shawn Michaels are putting on some pretty awesome shows between SmackDown, Raw, and NXT, of course.
I've actually enjoyed the product more. I think the storytelling is a lot better. As I like we've talked before, I'm a storytelling guy. I
Yeah,
like stories. I do.
yeah,
Because I think that what he's been able to do, I think he's one of the boys, quote unquote. He's one of the
hmm,
guys, and I think he, you would hear stories back in the day about CM Punk was mad, and Triple H was the one that went up and said, "Hey, what's going on? What's your deal?" And it wasn't Vince. I think Vince was more of that. You're going to do this, like this is what you're going to do, and whether you like it or not, this is what you're going to do. And I think Triple H is more having discussion. This seems like to me
yeah,
that's what I get. And people have
sure.
more input or can say more things. Uh, but I've really enjoyed it. I've gotten more back into it, and I think now that it's on Netflix, I'll watch it more. I
Yeah,
think I have Netflix. I don't have television.
yeah. I'm in the
Um,
same boat, so yeah, I get that.
yeah, so anyway, uh, I think I'll follow it more, but I watch all the pay-per-views and I do still read the dirt sheets. I think they're doing great. I uh, the I just the bloodline stuff. The Cody Rhodes story. I mean, I'm not right about a lot. I don't think. I think I'm the the people that listen to this, the marks of the world that hate me, they probably love it when I'm wrong. But the one thing I was right about was years ago when I said on here, so many times, AEW is missing the boat on Cody Rhodes. AEW is missing the boat on Cody Rhodes, and WWE didn't. They
Yeah,
got it and they hit it out of the park. And there's a lot of people that were mad about Cody Rhodes finishing the story, and I think whether it was planned or not, them not letting him drop the belt that first time to Roman Reigns, getting The Rock involved, like that was more money than I think. All that wouldn't have been possible had he took it the first year. And I
right.
think they took a gamble and had Roman keep it, and it worked out even better. I mean, I know that it sounds like The Rock came back and The Rock was going to wrestle Roman and all this, and Cody was, but I mean, I feel like when WWE does it wrong, they do doink doink, and they do all these real goofy gimmicks, and they do it bad. When they do it bad, they do it bad. Zombie matches,
Yeah,
but when they do it right, they knock it out of the park. Like there, nobody compares. And the Cody Rhodes story, they got a lot of crap for the finishing the story and all this, but once The Rock came back and you're able to tell that story and get him to wrestle twice and then him go over. It's like, I think having back to back manias helped because when Daniel Bryan was hot, you just had one night.
hmm,
So you wanted to get him out there as much as you could. So you have him wrestle twice in one night. To WWE now, they're like, I can have Cody on Saturday night
yeah,
and on Sunday night,
yeah,
and I think, it really I think so I mean I've enjoyed it. I am a bit of a Cody Rhodes mark. I think he's great. But I've also really learned to appreciate Roman Reigns as well. So
yeah. Yeah, I agree with what you have said there. You were talking earlier about watching and being, backstage and being disconnected from it because for 7 years you were not only performing at most of the Stride shows and those early days at all of them, but you're also promoting and booking and taking care of all the little nuances that people don't always think about that happen at a wrestling show. How has it been going from that mode to select shows where you're just going and you're performing? Are you staying the whole time? Do you wrestle and leave? Do you stay and watch the matches? Do you give feedback to the younger talent, or how is it being a wrestler today for you and not having that responsibility of
I
shows?
still have guys. that will message me and ask me to watch their matches, and they still send me stuff. And so, but when I go to a show, um, I a lot of guys now more than ever before come up and ask me to watch their match,
Hmm.
and they come and ask me, which is I always thought when I was really grinding and doing it, I'd have more guys ask, but now they more guys come up and ask, which I find I didn't think that would happen, but I have a lot of guys come up and a lot of guys come up and ask me for advice or talk to me. But I think, I had one guy tell me when I was up at St. Louis that he thought I'd be unapproachable. So, well, whether that was, um, you know, whether I give off that vibe or not. But anyway, it's been, I really enjoyed my time at OVW there when I went back because I just got to show up and wrestle. And I enjoy this getting to show up and just wrestle and not have a say. Like No Folds, I've talked to him and I've pitched some ideas about stuff about for other guys, not for myself, but
Right.
for other guys and what I would do storyline wise. And other people have asked ideas and I've told them, oh, this is what I would probably do. But, and some of them, they just don't take it, and I like that. It's your company, it's your money. You do exactly what you want to do. For me, it's I feel like a lot of my friends aren't there anymore.
Right.
I don't, the Axe Allworths, the Rogers, the Jay Spades, the Curleys, those guys. The Farmer Billy Hills. I don't see them at my shows that I go to or I've been to. I see Brandon Espinoza, but guys like that. But I did I did that show at Williamson County. I was so excited. I got to see
Oh yeah.
Cash, and he was there. And Bull Bronson, I sat on his lap for about 20 minutes. Brian Richards. I see these guys. Alex Rudolph that I hadn't seen in years. And man, we just so like that's neat because it brings you back. I always forget all the stuff I got to do, and then you sit with Alex, and you're talking about stuff you did in St. Louis 10 years ago, 11 years ago, man, and you just forget about it. Like you're
Yeah.
just, oh my god, I forgot we did that, or how about we did this show this time, So that to me is neat to be back around it because I forget, the all that stuff. But yeah, no, it's obviously being at Stride it was a lot, but I think I was telling somebody that the other day. So, back in April, I went and looked at a building with a guy. A guy has been trying to get me to bring back Stride and wanting to me to invest money and put money into it. And we went and looked at a building, and I told him, I said, what I think made Stride so successful is I was there all the time. I was there 5 hours before the show. I was there every practice. I was training. I did all this stuff, and I was the main guy. And I did all the training, took all the bumps, and I said I can't do that anymore. And so I don't know what it looks like if I'm not that person. You know,
Right.
without having a Red Daniels involved or whatever. I don't know what that would look like, and so that was, and that's kind of been, the hang up, on a Stride comeback or, something of that nature.
So the event coming up on November 8th, it's a Friday night at Crab Orchard High School in Marion, Illinois. Talk about that. Is this going to be a reunion of sorts? Is this a one-off? Is it going to be kind of a to be continued? You're not looking at a monthly routine once a
No, I mean,
sounded like.
just the other day, I had a guy, the same, guy message, and he went and looked at a building, thought it was affordable, and he, told me I'm ready to buy a ring. You tell me when. That was actually last week. Me and you were talking before we got on. There's another show, possibly a
Yeah,
big show
yeah.
that me and you are possibly going to work out. That's going to happen maybe in January. That would be, a cool experience, I think, for Stride and get us put us really on the map, make us look, pretty good. But it's pretty much everything is just right now. It's just a one-off. Or to be continued, I guess. I've had now. a couple of the high schools we've worked have reached out when they saw we were doing the show here at Crab. They've reached out and asked if it's something that I would be interested in doing another school. And so I'm open to the idea. And man, just the fans that have reached out, with the excitement, wanting to come back, and you know the buzz from the wrestlers, all the wrestlers that message me wanting to come wrestle and how excited they are, and so that makes me feel good and makes me want to do something. I just don't know what a Stride comeback would look like without a me and you and Sam and Red Daniels, in the weeds,
Mhm.
doing it,
Right.
all because I mean I think we're all in places now to where I mean you don't work, but the rest of us work and have jobs, where you go to I mean you're going to Arizona and whatever else for work and with
I
rubbing
leave after
elbows with
this
senators.
Stride show for Las Vegas, so I literally get up the next day and head to Vegas. So
Yeah,
for work, it's all for work. I promise.
you're rubbing elbows with senators and all this, and next thing I know, you're going to be sitting at the governor's office or something. But anyway, but I no, I so that's what it looks like. I'm not. I don't know what it looks like, but definitely there are more Stride shows to come.
Sure.
Hopefully, the one in January.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. And hopefully, we got some good details to send out.
Yeah, we will keep people posted on that. If you don't already, check out the Stride Pro Wrestling Facebook page. Um, some of the matches coming up, Peyton Ayers, who is the Stride Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, was kind of retired, if you will, as champion when the company stopped running shows last year. Uh, he's getting in there with Farmer Billy Hills, who is someone that I've known. You've known longer, obviously, but I've known since the days of All American Pro Wrestling. A perennial fan favorite in Southern Illinois. So that's going to be a great matchup, a great combination. I don't know that we've ever seen these two in action against each other. I think Farmer had kind of also stopped wrestling or being as active in the ring, and honestly I'm not even sure what's going on, like with Cape Championship Wrestling. That was at one time running about the same time Stride started up, and so I'm not sure that they're doing shows as often anymore, but Farmer again is always in that conversation of Southern Illinois wrestlers. And then Peyton Ayers, he's been on this show before, part of Young Rock. We talked about that a while back, and he's just got one of those. He's one of those guys that I think gets it, um, the physical part of it, but he also gets how it all kind of works, and I have nothing but a ton
Um,
of respect for him.
yeah, Peyton is one of the I would say he's one of the three best trainees we've ever had to come through as far as getting it and just that look and charisma and ring awareness and really easy to I've wrestled him
Yeah.
and he's fantastic and he's one of my favorite people that I've trained. And usually when you have a trainee you're like there's some that you struggle that you're like, oh my gosh, I got to work this guy and you're the one training them. And but he wasn't that
Yeah.
guy. And obviously Farmer Billy Hills, he's one of my favorite people. I mean, I've never, as far as, just guys that I consider friends in the business that I mean, outside of wrestling, him and his fiance, Sarah, they, obviously softball's my jam and they
Yeah.
got into softball and I actually met him and I gave him all my old softballs, all bats, everything that I had. I gave it to all of them because I was like, oh, anything you guys need, you let me know. And and it's funny because when I talk to Farmer, we don't talk wrestling. I sent him the video today of me singing Creed in class. And, I mean, and then, so I don't really talk wrestling to
Mhm.
him, and that's how I met him. But that's not what I think of him. I think of him as a friend and just a really good guy. I mean, he's just he's a great guy. So he's one of the ones to where if I have a wrestling show, I want him on it. So I reach out to him right away. Hey, I'm having a show. There's a handful of guys that I'm like, if I have a wrestling show, I want you on it. You're one of the first guys I reach out to, and he's one of them. And so I think he's, you know, if he just goes out and dances around the ring and runs around with the flag, then that's then that's all I need out of him.
So let's talk about another match that's coming up, and two people that I had forgotten just how much chemistry they had at one point as well, and that is the match coming up between Cash Borden and Red Daniels. Red Daniels, the first graduate of the Stride School, was one of those guys that behind the scenes you couldn't have found someone as dedicated to the cause, and Cash Borden, one of those characters that I without peeling too much back behind the curtain, I mean, I love his work inside the ring. He's a great guy backstage to talk to and talk with as well. But that's going to be a good one. And I had forgotten just how much, because when I think of great Stride rivalries, you and Cash definitely at the top of my list. And I think maybe because it was the most recent. But Red and Cash had some great matches, some really intense matches over the Stride Heavyweight Championship about 5 years ago now.
Yeah, I really felt like the Red Cash feud. Cash was, I mean, we were doing the Miners Stadium. We had the ladder match there, and around that time, and we did Cashing In at a whole
Yeah.
show around Cash because he can just work with anybody. And him and Cash had a match where they just at a fairground where they beat each other up all around the fairground.
Yeah.
And anyway, they had an amazing, I think, chemistry and feud that went on. Red was, he was, one of the first trainees. Him and Frank Edwards were the first two. But like I've said on here before, I thought Red was I get why people put me number one. I'm not stupid, but I thought Red was up there with me because I felt like people don't understand. I listen to your, not saying you don't understand,
Right.
but I listen, to your and Chad's, podcast on AEW, WWE, and I really enjoyed it. I really, talking. I didn't realize Chad loved WCW so much, and we've talked. WCW is my thing. Like WCW, like nothing has resonated. I feel the same way he does. Nothing's resonated with me. When I want to go back, I go back and watch WCW Nitro. When I go back, just
wow.
That's the feeling that I get. And obviously, the Stone Cold Rock era and Triple H was like real cool to me. But WCW was my jam. That was my show. That's what I went. That's what I watched. I only flipped the WWE during a commercial and then back to WCW. So, but I listened to your podcast, and indies are a lot the same. And a lot of wrestling fans don't understand. Wrestling is simply about who can make money, who can draw money. If you can, like wrestling companies, if you can make money or you don't spend your own money, you can stay afloat. And Red Daniels was the first wrestler besides me that drew money. That when I put him, I had, when I tried different things. Spade and Roger drew money. They actually did really well. But Spade wasn't the champion. He was just chasing Roger at the time. They did really well. They had a 2 out of 3 falls. But at the same time, Red and Hargis had a really cool story going on. So they were kind of 1A, and you were, so they were kind of like both. We had, Red did the Buried Alive match and all this, but he did a lot of things to draw money and put butts in the seats. And him and Cash, I mean, we did a whole show at, where they made money, made like $3,500 or something like that with Jamie Woodworth. Where it was all about Cash, and me and you wrestled. I mean, we were a tag team. We weren't doing much, but you weren't anyway. You were messing up every spot we called for you. But anyway, no, they were, and he drew money. So obviously, Cash is probably one of my favorite people I've ever wrestled. He's actually just one of my favorite human beings in the world. And then Red is, to me, the best trainee ever to come through. And he had a short run. But as far as why I say that is Red understood storytelling and what he lacked in the ring ability wise, he made up for with charisma and ability to tell a story, an ability to understand that it doesn't matter how bad I look or how whatever, as long as I can get them to engage in what I'm doing,
Mhm.
then they'll buy in and they'll buy a ticket and and you know, and he to this day, I mean, I had a fan the other day message me and was like, "Is Red really coming back to wrestle?" You know, and
Yeah,
I said, "Yeah," and he was like, I guess Red doesn't have Facebook or he's deactivated his
yeah,
Facebook or
yeah.
and he said, "Oh, I tried to send him a Facebook message and he didn't respond." So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that match just because they have good chemistry and honestly, I really like them both. And
Yeah.
so the fact that they're going to be there and have a match that's enough for me anyway.
We've said the word chemistry a lot here, and I know obviously in wrestling, you look at guys that they're in the ring and they're beating the hell out of each other, and you think these guys must hate each other. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is it safe to assume that there has to be a little obviously cooperation, but that chemistry that happens beyond the ring when you get in there, then I would imagine it makes it easier to get in there and have a match and be able to do the things that are done if you have some sort of relationship or you have some sort of,
You know,
you're
you
not
would
bitter
think
enemies.
you would think that, but
Mhm.
that's honestly a lot of times it's the complete opposite.
Okay.
So there are people like me and Brandon Espinoza are weird. I mean, he just called me the other day and just said, "Hey, sorry to call you out of the blue," and we just talked. You know, just and we have always been really close, really good. We rode to OVW together for a long
Yeah.
time, 4 hours
Yeah.
there, 4 hours back. But anytime we wrestled, our styles were so different. We really didn't have the best matches. Me and Daniel Eads never really had those amazing matches. They were never bad. But
Right.
we never had a match. And there are people I won't say that I could not stand backstage. I could not stand when their name popped up. I just was like, oh my gosh! And I went out and I had good matches with them.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know. And you know, you look at Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart.
Yeah.
You know, you look at
Yeah.
people like that. Now, there are certain people like I have really good chemistry with, like a Jay Spade.
Yeah.
And I think that there are, you know, you do have that, but a lot of times, the people chemistry is so hard
Yeah.
to explain. It's so like you wouldn't think CM Punk and John Cena would have great chemistry,
Right.
but they do. You would look
Yeah.
at them and be like, that's too complete, but they do. Uh, and so a lot of times there's people that you think, you know, you're going to have really good chemistry with. You're going to be able to go out. You know, there was a guy named, that I wrestled. Him was Isaiah, an amazing wrestler at OVW, super talented guy. And that we wrestled at Strictly Insane. I want to say we did a show every Wednesday. We wrestled like 9 or 10 straight Wednesday nights for the belt, and I lost all of them. But it wasn't until the seventh night that we gelled. And we sat backstage and talked. But when we went out there, it was just something was off. And then all of a sudden it just clicked and we figured it out. So sometimes that happens where chemistry just, you know, you look at it and or it just happens and you're like, you know, boom, you just have this amazing chemistry. And sometimes you don't. There are people that, like I said, you're in the back and you try to talk to and but then there's times, you know, guys you're really close to, like me and Axe. You know, when we first started, I didn't like Axe. Axe didn't like me. Well, I won't say I didn't like it. I was scared of Axe. I
Yeah.
thought Axe was a jerk. You know, I could not tell. I talked about Undertaker earlier. I couldn't tell the difference between um, Axe, um, the wrestler, and Matt Allworth. You know, and
Yeah.
so once we became friends, but anyway, we always had great chemistry, and I was scared of him. But
Yeah.
we always, when we wrestled, we had great chemistry, and we went out and could tear the house down. So I think chemistry is one of those things where you never know if it's going to click. You look at two people together, and you think, oh my god, this is going to be magic, and then it's just terrible. And you know, or you work with somebody and you just your timing's off, you're not on the same page, and it's not good.
When you told me uh, that you were going to pull the trigger and bring back this show. I didn't ask any questions about who was coming back, who was working who. I was waiting for you to send the announcements and whatnot. And I was kind of trying to guess and speculate, who you were going to end up working with. And the fact that it's going to be you versus Jay Spade in a Falls Count Anywhere match is very interesting to me. Tell me a little bit about why you came to that conclusion to put this match together.
In all honesty, I wrestled two shows, and I was both of them booked me, and they both put me in the main event, and I humbled, and they both promoters put over how good I was to the other person, and the other person watched me, and I don't feel like I'm not in the ring enough. I don't train enough. I'm not in the best shape. I feel like these people are excited to work with me, and I can't give them what they want. And so I feel like I'm at a point to where I don't want to let anybody down. I don't want to let fans down. I don't want to let wrestlers down. I don't feel like I do. I feel like I'm more, and I know I'm not a John Cena I'm not a big name, but I feel like around here I'm more of an attraction. I'm
Mm-hmm.
more of this guy who's done all this cool stuff, been on WWE pay-per-views, wrestling, kind of big name Southern Illinois type of thing, and in the area. So I feel like when I'm there, I'm just there to add to the show, but I can't give them the match that they are going to want to see. And I think I could maybe go out and do it. But then again, I worked, the main event, in St. Louis for the title, and I felt like I was off, and I apologized to the guy, and he was very nice and told me it was great and it was an honor, and he loved it, and the promoter loved it and tried to get me to come back the next month. But I felt like I wasn't at the level I needed to be at. So anyway, it came to, um, Spade is old and slow and crappy like me, and I can say that. And so it come to, we've worked together so many times. We trained together. I know I'm not going to let him down, and he knows he's not going to let me down.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what he's thinking. I mean, me and him wrestled and at Gallatin County Fair, and he was like, "Oh my God, just pin me. I can't move." And I'm like, and so I mean, there's a certain level of comfortability there, a certain level of I'm not going to let him down. He's not going to let me down. It's at the school. I'm going to have a ton of students here, a ton of people in the community that are going to come to see Mr. Hatton wrestle. So I don't need to go out and have a Red Daniels versus Cash match, a Farmer Billy Hills match. I don't have to do that because I'm going to be over anyway.
Right.
So the whole reason I came to it now, I, in hindsight, if I could pick anybody, it would be Axe. He's injured
Yeah.
as it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's really making a good name for himself at the company he's at. And there's no doubt in my mind he would come and wrestle me for free and he would do it. But I don't want to ask him that.
Right.
Yeah, at Stride, I'll tell anybody, and everybody knows I've been open book about it. I paid Axe more than everybody else. So every show we took the money out for the rent, for the electric bill, for the water bill, took all the money out, and then what was left we paid the talent. And then I split it up, and Axe always got at least $5 more than everybody else.
Yeah.
And that was important to me. So that's how I think of him. And I would never want to insult him and be like, "Hey, you want to come here and work for $20,
Yeah.
at a charity show?" So
And I want to talk about that too, because that is, part of this is it's the school that you teach at. Uh, when we do shows at schools, typically they are a fundraiser, so it is a benefit show. and it's a testament to the guys that do come and work these shows and you know, Ace Hawkins is coming back, and Dalton Anthony will be there, and Brian Richards, Bull Bronson, someone we haven't seen in many years in a stride ring, uh, Bud Galloway. So there's a lot of talent. Again, go check out the Stride Pro Wrestling Facebook page. But do you want to plug anything about the school itself, Crab Orchard School? It's Are you in a K-12 building over there, or
Yeah,
is
we're K-12. I mean,
okay?
we're a small school. I mean, it is a fundraiser. We got some batting cages recently that were very expensive. We're getting a spotlight. Just small school, small area. Just I teach here. I teach driver's ed, PE, what I teach, and
Yeah,
trying to raise money. And I mean, just and to go back to what you said about the Dalton Anthony's and the Brian Richards and the Bull Bronson. um, you know, those are all people. Everybody on this show, from El Magnifico to Dalton Diamond to they'll be on the show to Dalton Anthony to Justin Durst to Ace Hawkins, to Bud Galloway, David Lee Walker. All these guys are people that I consider friends, that have been really really good friends. If I was on the side of the road and my car was broke down, probably one of the three people I would call would be like Justin Durst to
yeah,
come,
yeah,
so I mean, I've developed these friendships. There are lots of guys along the way that you become friends with, and they have all, I think, they've all kind of realized that I gave them a place close to home to wrestle, and so there's a love. I let Dalton Anthony come over and train, and even though he was at another place training, and I do whatever. I think they've realized now, being in it, how crappy some places can be, how
yeah,
crappy some people can be, and so I think for me, and two, I've had a bunch of them reach out and tell me they've all became fathers or parents recently, and they've all told me like, "Hey, I wanted to say thank you for teaching me how to be a dad." And so to me, I've never cared about. We've talked before. If people don't think I'm a good wrestler or they think I'm crappy, like I don't care. I did it because I loved it and I enjoyed it. But like if people remember me for being a good dad, then I consider that a success. And so the fact that I'm able to influence these people, and then when people see me, they think like he's a really good dad.
yeah,
Like that to me is super important. But the people that I chose to be on this were, just friends and people that I thought, and two, I did it on a Friday night because I did not want to compete with anybody else.
yeah,
There are so many wrestling companies in the area, and I don't want to take away from anybody.
yeah,
I feel like you and I both know people that wrestle at all of them. And we, I know you and me, neither one, we don't want to compete with
yeah,
anybody. I don't want, the more places there are to wrestle, the better.
yeah,
I've wrestled for No Fold. I have a good relationship with them. They're, the IWAP, John and Patty. I've wrestled for them, have a great relationship with them. Pro Wrestling Epic that did the Williamson County Fair.
oh yeah, yeah,
Lenny and though I have a great relationship with them. There is, and that's the thing too. And people probably go, oh, but there's no heat between us and Ignite. There's nothing there. That's fabrication stuff that's made up. I know I both, we wish them the best of luck. I mean that, we want them to be successful. There's, as far as I know, now we have the weirdo stalkers that come to the Stride page and laugh. We make posts,
yeah,
that people that want to be a wrestler or whatever. But those people, like, they're whatever to me. But, like people that think that there's heat between Stride or any other company. There's not,
Yeah.
um, I think, and what I was saying earlier is outside of wrestling, like I talked about Farmer, Farmer to me is Josh. He's just, that's what he is. Um, Dexter Roswell, he was, my kids called him Uncle Carrot.
Yeah.
He trained, you officiated my wedding. I only invited 30 people there.
Yeah.
Him and Logan were invited. There's no heat. Those guys, like whatever happens in a wrestling company or business, like we talked about Undertaker, that's completely different than personal, And so those guys, they may not ever listen, but they, I know they don't have heat with me, and I think they know I don't have heat with them. I wish them well, and to me, they are, Garrett and Logan that, came to my wedding, that
Yeah.
came to my kids' birthday parties, that exchanged Christmas gifts with my kids. So stuff like that, I'm always thankful for.
Yeah.
I'm always more thankful for you for officiating my wedding than I am for you being a terrible ring announcer. So, there,
And an even
so I
worse
think,
wrestler.
yeah. And even worse at calling spots or remembering spots. So, so I think that people need to understand that whatever Stride does, we're not competing with anybody else. I mean, I changed the match because it did not go well with what No Folds Pro Wrestling was doing in
Oh,
their storylines.
gotcha.
So I changed the match
Yeah.
because I don't want to step on anybody's
Sure.
storylines or anything like that. And so that's not what I'm here to do. I mean, um, you know I love wrestling, and back in the day, people thought Stride and CCW had problems or issues, and I'm a just and people I know get mad because of my criticism of AEW, but I want these places to be successful because the more places there are to wrestle, like that's what makes me happy because wrestling is what I love and that's what I enjoy. And there is, it from the time I was, 6 years old, I want to be a wrestler. That was it,
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's what I love it and I enjoy it. And anytime that I get to do it, I'm very thankful. My wife and my body, not so much, because it's broken down from years and years and years of abuse. But anytime I get to do it, I'm thankful. So I'm happy the school, they were all on board and might make this a yearly thing for sure. And I'm very thankful for that. So
So if people want to get tickets, I know in the past they would message the Stride
we're
page.
just doing them at the door.
You're just doing them at the door. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
we're sending them at the door.
We'll let
First come, first serve.
Yeah. All right. It's going to be a great show. Tyler, anything else you want to add before we wrap up this week's episode?
No, I mean, thanks. I know it's been a while since me and you have talked
Yeah.
on here. And I didn't get to really crap on anybody. Except for you. But no, I mean, hopefully they come to the show. Hopefully, it's a good time. It'd be family entertainment as always, and hopefully, if there's you know any fans that have never or want to come back to Stride, we'd love to see them. I know a few have messaged
Yeah.
actually our buddy Matt Jenkins,
Yeah.
his nephew goes to school here.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and he comes down and talks to me quite a bit and talks about wrestling. So I'm excited to see
Yeah.
all those people that are coming back and we'll come
Yeah.
and we'll get to see.
It'll be a great time. It has been well over a year for me doing anything with wrestling. So I'm excited for that aspect of it, reconnecting with some folks, seeing you in person again. I don't think I've seen you in person since I did your Chatting with Hatton podcast about a year ago.
Yeah, I was actually the other day, about a month or two ago, I've been on this carnivore diet.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was going to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and because there they cook them in the oil that I'm able to eat it. And so I was going to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and I think I messaged you and said, "What are you doing?" And you were doing something we won't talk about on here. And so,
I don't even remember what it was.
yeah, but I think I didn't, I just said, I was like,
Yeah.
I sent a snap and you sent back something that told me what you were doing and where you were at. And so I didn't even ask, but my plan was to see if you wanted to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. But I was like, he's on a position to drive a vehicle right now. So
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Now I got you. Well, we'll definitely, get together again before or after the show is over. If I survive Vegas, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I again appreciate you including me in all this, and the fans will have a great time too. So again, be sure to join us on Friday night. It is November 8th. It'll be here before you know it. Be sure to check out Stride Pro Wrestling on Facebook, and we'll get you any information you want to know. Tyler, thanks once again for being a part of the show.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All righty, friends, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.